Uncivilized Vitality here, and we're trying to shoot this video on the GoPro as well, so hopefully the audio is just as good. So we're gonna do part of your salt and needle kit, which is hygiene, first aid, and gear support or gear repair. You want to have things with you in the field or on the campaign that you can repair damage to your gear or maintain your gear. So like a small sharpening stone, some oil or wax to cover your knives, repair tape, that kind of thing. The most essential of which is the actual needle of the salt and needle part. So if I show you down here, instead of carrying a spool of thread, an assortment of needles, and a roll of Gorilla Tape, which is, and it doesn't take up a lot, but there's a really neat piece of kit that you can get called a Ripspool. It's from Exotac Gear. It's made in the US. Mine's coming unraveled a little bit, that's right. This is called a Ripspool. It's got a little lanyard on there. You can replace that with a bit of paracord or take it off completely. I have an orange one and a silver one in my other gear. And it's pretty neat. It's got some high tensile strength thread on there. I want to say it's Kevlar thread, but I don't know if that's accurate. And I'm not quite sure how much is on there. And it's got a roll of Gorilla Tape on there. Now on my other one, I've used up the Gorilla Tape and the thread, and have since replaced them with dental floss and like a high vis orange, and then another bit of tape. But the cool thing about the Ripspool is once we undo this, the Ripspool, you just undo that, and inside the thread end cap, you've got a place for a couple, 2-3 needles. I don't remember if it comes, I think it comes with a needle, so I think this is the one it came with. This is a large needle. It's got a little bit of a flattened end, sort of a large cloth needle. You can dig out splinters with that, right, if you need to. You can use that to repair heavy gear, and then I added a smaller needle as well for some, maybe sewing a patch back on or doing some repairs in smaller or thinner, more delicate cloth. So you get a couple of needles in there, and this little end is sort of, they set right down in there. It's a little, it's either magnetized or it's got a little bit of a resistance in the bottom. I can feel the needles kind of sticking in there. And you set your needles in there, so they're kind of held in place, so they won't fall apart right when you take the end cap off. Let's wind this thread back around there. There's quite a bit of thread on there, and let me see if I can kneel down and see that. There should be, there it is. Alright, so this is going to be almost, alright, that is quite the strong thread. On the end cap, there's a tiny little hole. I don't know if you can see that. A little hole through there, and I think I should be able to thread the rest of my thread through that little hole. It's kind of a stopper. But you know what, we're going to skip that so that I don't go insane on video. So the needles are in there, and then you can see how much Gorilla Tape is attached on the Ripspool. Let me just catch the edge of that. And you can peel off as much or as little tape as you need. It's got some first aid applications. It's got repair applications. It's always handy to have a bit of tape with you while you're out there. And I believe it's Gorilla brand tape, but either way, there's quite a bit of tape on there. Again, you can check the specs, and you can see the aluminum tube that the end cap screws into that the tape is wrapped around. So once you run out of tape, you could just wind some more on there. I don't know if Ripspool makes a replacement tab. You see that that tape roll is not going to slide off there. Anyway, it's got the tape there till you run through. You can put the end cap with the needles, you slide that right back down in there. It's got a little waterproof grommet on there, down in the cap. Screw that back on. Tighten it down. And there's the Exotac Ripspool. Now, because that thread will become an unraveled and tangled mess, you can, let's see, we've got some here's a good idea. You can take a little bit of inner tube, cut yourself a thin Ranger band, get your thread wrapped around there, and then on the end of your Exotac Ripspool, just double that Ranger band over to hold that thread in place. Just like that. So now it won't come unraveled. Now you've got a good piece of gear support. Doesn't take up a lot of room. It's brightly colored. It's pretty light. Even with all that tape, it's a great way to keep your needle and thread organized, and your tape. And then you just keep that in your pocket or throw that in your gear support bag. And it will take up less room than a couple spools of thread, variety of needles, and another roll of tape. So there you go, the Exotac Ripspool. There's a quick little gear review, and I will put some details in the description, maybe a link to the Exotac website or any of the specs, like how much thread and tape is on there. So that's it. Like, share, subscribe.